Baconators, mount up. What's up, Rob Cressy, founder and editor-in-chief of Bacon Sports, and it's time to talk about NFL Week 5 lines with Vegas insider from Covers.com, my man, Jason Logan. What is sizzling, Jason?
Not too much. Got my coffee this morning, and I think I still got some sleep in my eyes, but I'm ready to roll. Let's do this.
All right, Jason, like I like to do every single time, who is your hashtag random athlete of the day?
I'm keeping the Cowboys. I'm going with my man Jay Novacek. Those championship teams, he was the tight end. He was kind of the safety blanket, the third down specialist. Jay Novacek.
Nice.
Here's to
I
you,
dig
buddy.
it. For me, my hashtag random athlete of the day, me being based out of Chicago, it's his birthday. One of the best middle linebackers in NFL history, Mike Singletary.
Nice.
Big shout out to him. So today, super fun day. Let's get right to it. We're going to talk about the prop pick of the week. And I saw you guys at Covers tweet this out earlier in the week. So I'm super excited that we're going to be dishing about this. So what do we got?
We were talking about this past month, the NFL kind of, I don't know if they celebrated or what they did, but it was their first month without an arrest, which I don't know if is something to be celebrated, but fun odds makers at bookmaker.eu, they came up with some really cool odds about this as to which arrest would be next based on which law would be broken next, I guess. So I think I sent you the odds there. Read them off.
Yeah, so what we got is DUI, DWI, the favorite at plus 150. Marijuana or drug possession at plus 340, which for me, this is where I'm putting my money because there's tons of players in love with Mary Jane. Domestic violence at plus 450. Battery or assault at plus 720. We got weapons plus 760, which I think is great value right there.
That was actually going to be
disturbing the peace, disorderly conduct plus 800, theft plus 1100, and murder plus 2200. And I think the murder, I don't think that's good enough odds for me to be betting on murder.
It's one of these kind of prop bets where you almost feel bad about yourself making a pick on them because, I mean, you don't want people to commit these crimes, especially, something like murder and the domestic abuse, which has been a problem for the league. But, I mean, if you want to have fun with it, see if you can parlay a few things. See if you can parlay drug possession and weapons and disturbing the peace. They seem to kind of go hand in hand. I don't want a high 350-pound football player loaded to the gills knocking on my door at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm calling the cops.
Could you imagine that if someone's like, I'm just parlaying these bad boys because I think it's not going to be one. It's somebody who does innate or has guns and weed in their car, almost like John Bones Jones. He got a DUI with weed in the car and resisting arrest by fleeing.
Yeah, I'm sure you could stretch this. It's a sad story, but I'm sure you could stretch this kind of prop across some different sports, especially with football and MMA.
So where would the Derek Fisher, Matt Barnes fight at Matt Barnes' ex-wife house fall in this? Because Derek Fisher said he may or may not be pressing charges.
I mean, what's he got? Disturbing the peace.
Right.
I guess you could call this domestic. It could be a domestic abuse charge too.
Right.
It's happening in someone's home. I've got Derek Fisher. If we've got to set props on this or we've got to set odds on this fight, I got Derek Fisher all day. The man's a former Laker, so I love him. He's Mr. Clutch. He's stocky and tough to take down. Matt Barnes is wiry, but I don't like Matt Barnes.
Yeah, but I think Matt Barnes has the element of crazy that you don't want to mess with.
I wouldn't mess with Fish. Fish got kids. He's got a lot to lose here. He's losing the height battle. He's losing the reach battle, but he's a champion, which is first and foremost in my book.
Something in me just wants to lay down $10 on murder. So in the event that it does happen, you're like, ultimate backdoor cover. There goes OJ in the Bronco, and you're like, yeah, I had that.
And then you got to donate those winnings to charity.
Of course.
Right? Yeah.
All of this in due fun, of course. All right, let's get to the games for NFL Week 5. And actually, before we get to that, you did say that there is a crazy college parlay, 8-game, $70,000 winning parlay at CG Technology Books in Las Vegas last Saturday. Tell me about that.
Yeah, sure. Just talking with their vice president of risk management, Jason Symbol, there this week, and he was telling me about this bonkers 8-team parlay. A guy put down $300. He won 70,000. So here's the games, and they're completely random. Like there's no real rhyme or reason to these. He had Louisville on the money line. He had under in Mississippi State, Texas A&M. He had Bama money line. He had under in BC and Duke. He had under in South Carolina and Missouri. He had Eastern Michigan ATS. He had under in Michigan, Maryland, and he had the over in the TTU Baylor game. The most remarkable thing about this, talking with the guys at CG Technology, and they run books out of the Venetian and the Cosmo, the M, the Tropicana. There were no sweats. Like these were all easy winners. Usually with these crazy parlays, there's usually a good story that goes along with it. Guy caught a last second touchdown, or there was an interception, missed field goal, something crazy happened to make the payout. Nothing. This guy just sat back, put his feet up, easiest $70,000 he ever made.
Wow, and with some of those unders on there, but big props to him for betting against Mark Richt, taking the over in a Texas Tech game. I mean, come on, this guy at least knew some of what he was doing there.
Yeah. Hey, maybe this was his big plan all along. Maybe he was waiting for these certain opportunities to come, and he struck. But these things, they usually said they hit 4 to 5 of these big ones, crazy ones a season. And it just turned out that this one was real easy for the guy. So kudos to whoever that was.
Yeah, and shout out to that Louisville moneyline bet. NC State ain't all that. And when I saw after the fact, I've liked Louisville all year, especially after they're not going to hit the expectations for what everyone thought going into the season. But I haven't forgot that they're still a good team. And NC State is a paper tiger. And, of course, didn't look and see what Louisville was doing. Boom. They win as, I believe they were like 3-point dogs or something in that game.
Not sure what the line was on that one. But, it's an insane parlay. But, if you're going to put in $300, like you didn't just throw it. It wasn't a 10-team flyer, a $10 flyer. It was you put $300 on it. So he must have went through the games, combed them out, and this is what he came up with.
That is awesome. All right, now we will get to the NFL Week 5 games, and let's start with this. Jason, who are the Sharps betting this week?
Well, the last few weeks it's been Oakland. Oakland has been the sharp bet. They have seen some action this week, but the biggest sharp play has been Tennessee. Tennessee's they're at home to the Bills. It opened 3. It's down to 2.5, so it's moved off that key number. And that's been the biggest sharp play. The other one has been Washington. Washington's the other one, where the Redskins were. Where were they at here? I had them on my list. Still very early.
Redskins are taking on the Falcons. It was 7.
There it is. Yeah, sorry, they're taking on the Falcons. So some people, and this is the same line moves that they saw last week with the Falcons games, is that people are starting to fade the Falcons, thinking that their undefeated record might not be as good as what people see.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one as well. Has that game gone above 7?
It opened 9, and it's come down to a touchdown. It's come down to 7 now.
Wow, interesting. Nice.
Yeah, so they kind of expect. You get the general public in Saturday and Sunday. That's when like 95% of that action is going to come in. So you're going to have the public look at the Falcons and look at Washington and just be like, oh, I can't bet the Redskins. They're terrible. But they looked all right last week. So.
All right. What is the game that the books are going to be sweating the most this week?
It's the Patriots at Dallas. This game, it opened around 7, opened around a touchdown. I've seen some places go up as high as 9. There might have even been some 10s out there. Most places are around 8.5, but it's going to continue to go up. This is New England coming off a bye. They just decimated poor Jacksonville. Dallas gets some guys back on defense, but they just aren't the same offense with Brandon Weeden under center. They really miss Romo. They really miss Dez. They're down Lance Dunbar, who was, a playmaker for them, a guy that could break off an 80-yard gain in one play, almost like kind of a poor man's Darren Sproles in a way. They lose him. So, I mean, the Patriots could score 21 points, and Dallas, I don't know if Dallas can score 21 points. So this is the game. All the parlays are going to be tied into it. All the teasers are going to be tied into it. So that's the big sweat for the books this week.
And you get an opportunity, as you mentioned, to bet against Brandon Weeden. And if you're sitting there, you don't want to be holding a Dallas plus 8.5 ticket with Brandon Weeden when first drive Patriots go down seven plays, 80 yards, and you're like, uh-oh.
Yeah, but there will be doubt. I mean, they're kind of like the Yankees and Notre Dame. They're a public team, and they get blindly bet no matter what. So come Sunday, those Dallas fans are going to be rolling into the sports books, and they're going to want to play their Cowboys. If you are one of those Dallas fans like myself, I'm not touching this game. But wait it out and see how big the spread goes, because you are going to have the public one-sided on New England, and then you'll have, you may have sharps buying back Dallas at home. But like I said, I'm not touching it. It's poison line.
Who's the most public team this year, and is it consistently the same ones? Are we looking at the Packers, as you just mentioned, the Cowboys, but the Patriots, the teams that are consistently good?
It's the teams that come out and crush teams. So, I mean, the teams like the Packers, like when the Packers went out and beat Seattle handedly, I mean, that was a huge eye-opener for the rest of the league. The Packers, I would say, are the most public team because they've constantly gone out and covered, too. New England, another one. I mean, they're Super Bowl champs, so you can't get any more high profile than that, but they've also gone out and they've covered, too. And then you have teams like Denver, where they have been the very popular team over the last few years because they've gone out and put it on teams. But the betting public has kind of slowed back. They've kind of soured on the Broncos a bit. So as of right now, Packers, Pats would be your two most public bet teams. Those are the teams that books are always going to be cheering against because they know that they're going to get that one-sided money on that team.
And how about
can't make those lines high enough.
Last week in a game in which they didn't have the explosive offense. It's just there was nothing going on for the 49ers. I know you mentioned, I think a lot of the sharps liked the 49ers in that game. The line got driven down from like 9 or 9.5 down to closer to 7 towards game time. And I'm sitting there watching that, and I initially wanted to get some of that 49ers action until the line just kept going down. And I'm like, wait a second, this ain't working for me.
I will tell you, though, sometimes when you see that line move that you don't quite understand, a lot of the times you'll have bigger bettors and these betting syndicates which go in and they hammer one side with bets. And the odds makers and the sports books will react to that, and they'll move the line. And the sharps are actually looking to play a specific line. So if they bring a line down to 7 or 6.5, they'll go and they'll double and triple up on the other side of that because they want to bet that one particular line. So they almost set up books in a way. So sometimes when you do see that line move that you don't quite understand, a lot of the money that comes in, a lot of the sharp money that comes in, you don't see it because it's coming in at the closing bell. It's coming in at kickoff. And so the line really doesn't reflect all that money that comes in late.
So do you have a recommendation for the Joe public in an instance like that when you see a 2.5, 3-point swing when you're like, oh man, I want to get on this side, but you are losing so much value there. And the Joe public doesn't know about a syndicate then going to take the other side to hammer it home. A lot of times, as I've mentioned, we're going on information on what we see on Twitter. What people are saying is, oh, the sharps like this or that.
I mean, go to covers.com would be my first recommendation. We talk to odds makers, we talk to bookmakers, we talk to sharp bettors too, and kind of get their insight into it. I would say some of the best advice I can give you, if you see a line, jump on it early. So, if you see a line like 3.5 early in the week, and that's a side that you want to bet, grab that 3.5 because those half point hooks, they don't always sit around. And you can sit and wait it out, and then play it as late as possible. But like I said, sometimes you don't see that late action reflected in the closing number because it comes in so late that they don't bother adjusting the number. Just keep your ear to the ground, keep yourself logged into covers, check us out on Twitter, and get an idea about a line. Try to figure out where you think it's going to go.
So Tell me about this one. If you're going to be betting the underdogs, a lot of times I think there's a perception that you should wait to try and get the best number, but that doesn't necessarily always mean that the underdog is always going to go up and you're going to be getting more value in that.
No, not necessarily. I mean, if you talk to sports books, they'll tell you that the public loves the favorites. The sharps look for an underdog with bite. They look for a team that's going to fight and keep it closer. So, I mean, it's kind of split that way. If you're looking for a good underdog bet, so are the sharp guys. And so when they come in, you're not going to, you may not get the best line value because books will respect that wise guy action. And they'll say, well, the sharp guys came in and they moved it half a point or they moved it a full point. We know the public's going to come back the other way. So, we're going to respect the sharp action for now. And you may not get that move back.
All right. So let's bop around real quick to the games for NFL Week 5. We'll just sort of give one hitters here. And the lines I pulled are from Thursday. But we got Buccaneers at home taking on the Jaguars, favored by 3, a game which I can't imagine too many people are excited about.
Yeah, and this one too, you can get the Bucks minus 2.5. So I mean, that's that key number that we're talking about. If you want to, you can get the Jags at a bit of a discount price now. The Jags, however, if you are betting the Jags, they've had trouble getting into the end zone when they get inside the 20-yard line. Trouble scoring touchdowns. They had trouble with their kicker last week. I think he missed 2 key field goals. So, it's always a risky take with the Jaguars. I think that defense is improving. They played well last week. They covered last week. And I think that they're only going to come together better as a team now, too. That defensive unit has players back, and they're going to, like I said, they're going to come together on defense. The offense, you may not want to put too much faith in them right now.
I do look for a good game out of TJ Yeldon, who I believe is 3rd in the NFL in rushing attempts. I'm typically not high on rookie running backs, but the Buccaneers do not have a good rush defense. So that's what I'm looking for there. And my wife went to UCF, so I am loosely rooting for Blake Bortles' success. All right, next one. As you mentioned before, Titans at home, taking on the Bills as 2.5-point underdogs there. Are the Bills being overvalued? Because I think a lot of people are betting the Bills early in the season.
Yeah, I mean, they like the Bills at home. This is their second road game, so we're going to see, if this is one of these teams that thrives on its home turf and struggles away from the road. So there is some to take away from the Bills in this one. Like I said, the sharp action has been on Tennessee. But the one thing I do like about this game, you've got Mariota versus Rex Ryan. Rex Ryan, he loves to feast on these rookie QBs. I think I looked at a stat the other day, and Rex Ryan is 9-2 straight up against rookie quarterbacks in their first meeting. He's going to throw, this is a pass rush. They throw a lot of, they throw the kitchen sink at teams. They disguise their blitzes. They've got some very good pass rushers. And Mariota not as mobile as he was at Oregon. I think he only has 5 rush attempts on the year, which is nuts. So the Titans are actually asking him to run a little more, which is funny because, you don't want to really throw your rookie QB to the Wolves, but he's a mobile QB, and that's who they want him to be. So I think this is going to be a really interesting game with Rex Ryan. He's going to put Mariota on the run, and he may have to run a little more than he would like in this one.
I will be interested to see what is up with the Bills running back situation. Carlos Williams going through concussion protocol. LaShawn McCoy injured. That might mean it's Booby Dixon getting the carries for the Bills. All right, Ravens at home taking on the Browns. Spread I've got is Ravens 6.5-point favorites. Nice cover by the Browns last weekend.
Yeah, and they almost won outright. I mean, it was I said it was the most Cleveland-y loss ever. The guy dings it off the upright. They played very well, and that was actually my favorite play last week. I bet that game. I liked Cleveland in that spot. This week, you've got Baltimore getting 6.5. It just seems like a lot of points for me. One, this is a divisional matchup, but 2, the Ravens have some injuries at wide receiver. They're pulling guys, off of practice squad. They're pulling rookies out. I don't know if they're going to be able to move the ball enough to cover the 6.5. Forset's going to get his touches. They get him going, but I mean, that's still going to, chew up clock. They're not going to be able to score as many points. It just seems like a lot of points for a team that really isn't that good on offense right now to cover. So
Right. And a sneaky daily fantasy football play or combo platter, Josh McCown to Travis Benjamin. Travis Benjamin has scored double digits in each game so far this year. Josh McCown has thrown the ball 40 times or more in each of the last 2 games, 2 touchdowns and 300 plus yards in each of those games.
Yeah, McCown, actually, it was funny. McCown was one of the top fantasy quarterbacks last week. It was kind of a no-name blend of quarterbacks last week. I remember looking at the top fantasy quarterbacks, and he had Hasselbeck up there and McCown up there, and a couple other guys. It wasn't Rodgers and Brady, and obviously they didn't play, but it wasn't the big name quarterbacks. It was a bunch kind of no-name, lower-tier guys that did really well.
Chiefs at home taking on the Chicago Bears. Chiefs favored by 9.
Yeah, and this line's gone up as high as Chiefs -10, which is bananas. I don't think Kansas City shouldn't be favored by 10 against any team. They could be playing the Little Giants, and I don't think they should be favored by 10. They're just not that good. The the Bears aren't as bad as they kind of look. Their offense has done well. The rushing attack is good. Their passing defense is good. Obviously having Clausen and Cutler kind of in and out is a bit of a hindrance on the offense. And Alshon Jeffrey's got a hammy, so you don't know if he's going to play. But I mean, the Kansas City -10, Arrowhead's tough to play, but I still don't think they should be favored by 10 against any team right now.
Yeah, I think there's a negative perception bias of people wanting to bet against the Bears just because of Jay Cutler. So I don't know if there's actual value in there, but I just think there's a perception that no one wants to bet on them. But as you said, the spread is so large. You're not betting on Jay Cutler to win. You're just saying, do you really think Alex Smith is going to win by 10 points?
Yeah, and Chicago looked good last week. They kind of got things going. Martellus Bennett is going to, I think he's starting to emerge as a star tight end now. There's a lot to like about the Bears and not a lot to like about the Chiefs right now. So, and their pass rush is good too. And the Chiefs, I think, gave up 5 sacks last week to Cincy. So it could get out of hand. I think I don't like Kansas City at all this year, and to see them giving 10 points is, I don't know, just my head spins on that one.
And the Chiefs' pass defense is atrocious. I do like Jay Cutler this week in terms of daily fantasy because if you look, I think the Chiefs have given up the most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks so far this year. All right.
Yeah, it's a nice discount buy, yeah.
Oh, of course. All right, next we've got the Philadelphia Eagles at home taking on the Saints. They are 4.5-point favorites. And man, I don't know if anyone knows what's going on with this Eagles team, which way. I think people want to believe in them and believe the breakout is there because of all the pieces. But how long can you do that? And then you've got a Saints team where, man, I have no faith in them whatsoever.
If you look at the line, 4.5, 5, it's one of these, what they call dead numbers. It's kind of like we don't really know where to set this one. I think it's a little bit too high for the Eagles right now. They haven't proven that they can really beat any teams, whether that's home or away. The one thing that kills the Eagles right now is their time of possession. I mean, they have that quick offense, but they're not moving the chains, and that leaves their defense on the field for extended periods of time, and their defense just isn't good enough. I think last week they may have had the ball for just over 22 or just under 23 minutes. The Saints have actually played a pretty good time of possession game this year. They had the edge against the Cowboys, which is tough to do because Dallas likes to milk that play clock all the way down. And the Saints are one of the top time of possession teams, which is, if you're looking for the under, this might be a nice one. People tend to think Philadelphia is going to come out and score, and the Saints have this stigma as a high-scoring team, but they're just not putting up the points like they used to. So I do see some value with the under here.
Cool. All right. Next, we've got a game that I'm really interested to see, the Packers at home taking on the Rams as 9-point favorites. And what's most intriguing to me is Todd Gurley, welcome to the NFL last week. My friend, that's how you ball out.
Yeah, he looked good. And towards the end of the game, too, just very heady plays, like staying in bounds and just milking the clock and securing that win for them. Where you might see some other running backs try to get that extra yard and get knocked out of bounds. Just really heads-up play. He looked like kind of a seasoned veteran out there. A lot of people were making the Adrian Peterson comparison. I think it might be a little too early to pull the trigger on that because of where this guy's health is. But, he looked great. With the Packers last week against the Niners, I think they gave up a few more hits on Rodgers than they really would have liked to. He did get knocked down quite a bit. He got sacked a few times. The Rams obviously have that big defensive front. They get the teams. They're nasty. They can collapse the pocket really quickly. It'll really it's all on the Rams defensive line with this one. If they can get pressure on Rodgers and hurry him and make him feel uncomfortable, then they have a shot at keeping this one close. But this one's up as high as -10. So again, it's one of those public teams. I don't think books are going to want to move off the 10. I think if anything, if it does go to 10.5, you're going to see massive sharp action on the other side, and you may see some sharp action come in and drag this line down before kickoff. But again, it's the Packers, so that they're going to try to keep that line high and make people really pay for playing Green Bay.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see which Rams team shows up. The one who couldn't put away the Steelers or the one who beat the Seahawks and the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, if they can get Gurley going and really dominate the football and keep Rodgers off the field, and then when he is on the field, get him off quick. That's the best way. You've got to really it's focused on Aaron Rodgers. He's the hamster that runs on the wheel for the Cheeseheads right now. So.
All right, probably the best game of the weekend. Bengals at home taking on the Seahawks. Line is -3. Bengals are favored.
Yeah, this one actually opened -2.5, and early action came out on the Bengals, which is something that you would never see in the past few seasons. It would have been all Seahawks money, but they were lucky to get that Monday night win. Obviously they get that nice punch out at the goal line, and then the referees give them a little bit of favor too. So I don't think people are really sold on Seattle. The Bengals just seem to have it all clicking. The offense is going, the defense is going, and there's a lot to like about Cincy in this spot. And you've got Seattle traveling as well too. So a tough spot for them. They haven't been able to protect Russell Wilson. I think he's had 18 sacks in all of the 4 games. Which is just bonkers. This is a guy that they just paid a lot of money to. They don't want to see him taking these hits. And the Bengals have a nice pass rush. They get to the quarterback, they hurry them, they sack. I think they have 11 sacks, which isn't massive, but a lot of QB hits, a lot of rushes.
And a short week for the Seahawks playing on Monday night, flying out east. All right.
Yeah, I'm sure Russell Wilson is still smarting a little bit from that Detroit game.
Right. Lions at home taking on the Arizona Cardinals. Cardinals favored by 2.5. This Lions team, if there's any shred of a chance that they're going to salvage the season, it has to come here, and this is not the best matchup that you would like to say that you have to win this game.
Yeah, this line is one of those lines where you're kind of caught off guard. It's 2.5. The Arizona's looked very, very good, and then they kind of went out and laid an egg against the Rams last week. Detroit, we could be talking very differently about Detroit had Cam Chancellor not punched that ball out, or had the referees actually made the right call on the Monday nighter. I said last week, I'm not ready to pull the plug on Detroit. They came through with a great effort in Seattle, played well, covered the spread, possibly should have won. I think this team is starting to figure itself out on defense. They lost some key guys in the off season, and now they're getting, they're kind of finding their footing. And guys are fitting into their roles in the defense. So I like Detroit. I think they give Arizona a good run to this week.
Lions lose this game, and you're going to see the Matthew Stafford hate really get ramped up in the national media.
Yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of Amir Abdullah in this one. I think they're going to really try to ride him. Arizona's run defense hasn't been as sharp. They've got a nice quick defense. They like to blitz a lot. And I think if they can keep the pressure off Stafford with a good run game, make Arizona play them a little more honest, then it opens it up. And maybe you get Golden Tate going, and maybe you get Calvin Johnson going again. So.
All right. Last 3 games, Raiders at home taking on the Broncos. Broncos are 4.5-point favorites.
Yeah, this is a series that has been completely one-sided. Denver has dominated the silver and black. And if you look at the past games, dominated. We're talking like double-digit wins, easy covers. Doesn't matter where they play. They have just smoked the Raiders. But Denver, really hasn't been that team this year. They're not blowing teams out of the water, and the Raiders have looked competitive. I think if the Raiders have a chance to win outright, this is the game for them. And they've got a little bit of inside information with this one. Jack Del Rio was the former defensive coordinator for the Broncos for 3 years. So, he knows the staff. Sure, they've switched from a 4-3 to a 3-4, and the offense is different too with Kubiak throwing those zone blocking schemes. But he knows the personnel. He knows what they like to do. and he knows Peyton Manning very, very, very well. Not only did his defense practice against Manning every week, but when he was a coach for the Jags, this guy had to game plan for Manning and the Colts 2 times a year. So if anyone knows the Broncos, it's Jack Del Rio. So it's nice to have that kind of ace up your sleeve to say with this matchup.
All right, Giants at home taking on the 49ers. Spread, Giants are favored by 7. And I will point out, the last 2 road games for the 49ers, they gave up a 40 spot on defense.
It's another tough travel spot for them. They've had to go back and forth to the East Coast a few times. And now they're back in, New Jersey, New York. The Giants are a team that's kind of catching my eye. They've looked a little bit better. They're getting the running game going. The offensive line has played very well, keeping Manning clean, and they've got the best run defense, and they've played some teams that really like to run the ball so far. The 49ers are punchless when it comes to their pass game. Kaepernick completely looks out of sync with his receivers. These are guys that he's played with for a few years, and he's still not finding them. They're really leaning on big runs, cap scrambling, getting Carlos Hyde going. And the Giants are a team that hasn't given up big runs this year. They've really stuffed the run. So I don't know if San Francisco really has the offense to keep up. And like I said, with the Giants, I think their offense is improving greatly. I think you're seeing Ruben Randle step up with Victor Cruz out. The Niners have given up some deep plays as well, too. So we might see some Odell Beckham highlights in this one. I really I think Ruben Randle might be a nice daily fantasy buy this week. I think he's going to have another big game. He's had 2 touchdowns the last 2 weeks, had a big game last week. I really like him.
I have a hate-hate relationship with Ruben Randle because every time I want to believe in Ruben Randle, he does not deliver. And here's a stat for you about Ruben Randle. So far this season, he has 3 catches or less in 3 of 4 games. However, in that other game, he did have 100 yards. And as you said, he has touchdowns in consecutive games. So it's a mixed bag of nuts. You got the touchdowns, he can blow up, but at the same time, Ruben Randle does have a very low floor, but he does have sort of a high ceiling if you do hit on him. All right.
Yeah, and you're going to get him at a pretty good price no matter where you're playing for daily fantasy.
Right. Last game, San Diego Chargers at home, taking on Pittsburgh Steelers. Chargers favored by 3.
The Chargers get Antonio Gates back, which is key for them. He's been Phillip Rivers' security blanket. He had a great season last year. This guy is still an elite tight end. And, he's up there in age, but he's missed the first 3-4 games. So this is going to, he's going to have a little pent-up aggression. He wants to get out there, pushing people around, make some touchdown catches. With Vic and the Steelers, he had to start on some late notice. He only really had 2-3 days to prepare, work with the first team, get some sort of chemistry going with his receivers. This time around, he has 10 full days to really, sink his teeth into the offense, get something working with his receivers. I think we see a better game. Even though Mike Vick had a great game, there were some missed catches. And I think that the Steelers, it's a tough travel spot for them, but I think the preparation definitely favors them in this one.
As a Steelers fan, I am still ill over that game over the Ravens. I don't even want to talk about it.
Tough one to bet there too.
Right. Jason Logan, all right, you've got some columns coming up. Give us some plugs. What's cooking with you and covers.com?
Sure. Like always, this is a big weekend for us. So, we're very active on Twitter. We're covering not only college football and NFL football. Hockey started and the baseball playoffs are going. We're a bunch of Canadian guys, actually, so we love the Blue Jays. I'm actually a Phillies fan foremost. Jays are my American League team. Phillies don't give me much to cheer about this time of year. So, I got to hope for the Jays. I'll have my columns, the Muff Punts, coming today. It's an entertaining look at the NFL weekend and betting. A lot of really cool information, some stats, some daily fantasy stuff in there. I have my NFL mismatches column, which is up there too, which is one of the more popular columns for us. Really dive into some underlying mismatches that may make the difference when it comes to betting these games. We've got Joe Fortenbaugh's college football column coming out here this afternoon. We'll have action reports. We have our cheat sheets on all the big games. if you're betting this weekend, we've got something on whatever game you are betting. So stop on buycovers.com. Check us out on Twitter. All that live breaking injury news, line moves, info from the books. It's all right there.
Awesome. And I am someone who uses covers.com, so I can tell you guys how awesome it is. So as always, check out Bacon Sports on any social media outlet you guys are on, and check out the Bacon store on our site. We do have some apparel, koozies. We have penalty flags. That way, when you're watching the game, something doesn't happen, you flag someone. That's how we get down.
I want some of those flags for real life situations.
I will certainly send you some.
I want to throw some flags when I go to the grocery store or when I'm sitting in traffic. I got some flags for people.
And I'm sure USC fans want to be flagging Steve Sarkisian right now. So that's all the time we got, Jason. So much fun as usual. We're out. Boom shakalaka.